So for day one of the challenge, we're actually going to start with the what and the how. Now, some people would actually tell you that you need to start with the why. I mean, Simon Sinek often starts with you need to start with the why, because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When it comes to branding though, that's a little counterintuitive. So we actually start with the what and the how. And today you're going to have to answer 3 very specific questions regarding your brand. Question number 1 is, what do I do? Question number 2 is, how do I tell people what I do? And question number 3 is, what does my product or my service actually do for my client? So let me explain. Normally when we do a strategy for someone, we normally get them to answer this first question. What do I do? And how do I tell people what I do? Now that's applicable for a personal brand. If your brand is actually a business brand or a product brand, then you need to answer the question in exactly the same way. When you are sitting and answering these questions, what you've got to be mindful of is to not use jargon or not use industry terminology that people tend to get a little bit overwhelmed and bamboozled by. And what you want to do is use words in the most simplest of terms. Now, I often describe this as the lowest common denominator. If you had to explain what you did or how you did it to a child, what kind of words would you use? Now, some people may say that's a real oversimplification, but in a world where we're actually exposed to so much and we've got to process so much information, very little things seem to penetrate or cut through, so you want to keep it as simple as possible. Now let me give you some examples. So if you say in terms of what you do exactly the same words that a competitor says, that's not a good answer. In fact, you want to get rid of that answer completely and you want to go back to keep answering the question. Now there isn't going to be one straight definite answer. In some cases you might have half a dozen to 24 different answers to both of the questions. And you need to answer the questions individually. Now let me give you an example of what is a good and a not so good response. So let's just say, for example, you were an accountant, and if you had to answer the question of what do I do, and you said I prepare tax returns, that's not a good enough response. A better response would be is I prepare tax returns for high net worth individuals, or I give taxation advice to business owners who turn over between $2 to $5 million, or I help tax planning and cash flow management for startup businesses that are about to commercialize a product. So you need to be very, very, very specific, and you also need to give a multitude of answers. So if you offer more than one service or you have more than one product, what you need to do is answer one line for every single product or every single person. Now, when you tell people what you do, you also need to explain it in terms of, well, I help people overcome their fear or their objections. I help people to better understand cash flow management. I educate people on all of their financial matters. You need to break it down into every single thing that you do, every action, every product is an individual response in a one line. Now, at the end of the exercise, you're probably going to end up with a multitude of answers and so forth as they're sort of set up like this. When it comes to answering the question, what does my product or service do for my client? It's really important for a brand to be able to answer that. Now, when we talk about product or service, again, we're referring to a personal brand, a business brand, or a brand for a product. And the answers have to go beyond what it is that you're actually selling, so beyond the service that they've paid for and beyond the product that they've actually purchased. And you need to start thinking in terms of, well, what are the benefits that my clients are actually going to get once they've purchased from my brand or they've purchased my brand? You know, are they left feeling more confident? Do you give them alternative ways of thinking? Do you change their perception or their mind? Do you give them peace of mind? You know, are they left feeling happy, sad? Are they grief-stricken? Does it make them more appealing to perhaps the opposite sex or to somebody else in their industry? You know, does it give them tools to be able to prevent something or to be able to make something occur? Does it educate educate them? Does it make them grow up and wear their big boy pants? What does it actually do? So if you are stuck with answering the questions and you do need to ask for some advice, here are a couple of suggestions as to who you could ask. What you would ask these people is exactly the way that I've asked you these questions, in that same order: 1, 2, and 3. Ask them one at a time. Don't bamboozle them and say, I want you to answer this and then this and then this. Give them time to actually think about it. Now, the kinds of people that you would approach to ask for advice might be a long-term client, and you also potentially want to contrast that with a newly engaged client as well too. So someone that's recently been introduced or exposed to you. It might be a trusted advisor. It might be a mentor or a coach. It could even be a long-term family member or friend that understands what it is that you're trying to do, or has always had some belief into your brand. What you don't want to do is ask the neighbor, or the guy you've just picked up at the bar over a drink, or someone you've randomly just crashed into at a networking event. You want to be able to have quality time with these people, and you do want to be open and receptive to the information and the answers that they're going to give you. And it's okay to use the words that they use. If it helps you out and it helps you to answer the questions, then that's a really good place to start. So give it a go. If you can't do it in your office or your normal environment, take yourself away, take yourself to a different environment where it's quiet and it's free of distractions. And if you want to share your answers with us, please do so, but make sure that you actually tag us so that we can see them and offer you some help and advice. Now, if you think today's a little bit light on, I'm just easing you into it. There is so much more to come, so stay with me for day 2.